Okay, I generally start with the nose to help anchor the face, and it kind of anchors everything down so that you can then decide where you want to go to and put things next. And um, if for some reason you're choosing not to have a nose on the face, you could just draw in, circle the area where a nose typically would be. If you'd like to leave just lightly, sometimes I really lightly circle in the space and leave it blank. And then once you've kind of, just to help you position the other elements, you can go back in once everything else is placed in and remove the circle. Erasing, excuse me, I lost my train of thought there for a minute. And really drawing noses is all about picking out the shapes. The picture I'm looking at, he has kind of a round nose on the end, but in the photo, it really makes it look kind of square on the side, so I exaggerate kind of how has little points on the sides, even though most humans don't really have square noses, but if you look at a lot of photos, people end up looking like they have triangle shapes or long elongated noses that don't come through so much in person. So pick out the shapes that you like or what you like about the nose and draw those in. And remember, it doesn't have to be realistic, that we're just going for more of a cartoonish kind of weird, odd look, so it's all about the shapes and more than actual features. And after I do the nose, I usually pencil in eyebrows. Sometimes I just do a rough shape if I'm not sure yet what kind of eyebrow I want to give the character. So you can always do things lightly and come back in later and erase and change or darken them. And don't be afraid to erase if you do something and then you add eyes and decide, eyebrows don't really fit the eyes, or they just aren't working for you. Hey, that's what's great about pencil. Erase it and try it again. It's your character and your work, so you get to decide. There are no rules, so you do whatever you feel like. I look at the pictures that I find appealing as a guideline or kind of an idea. It's a bouncing off place. So if you decide to give them two different kinds of eyes, go for it. On this one, these are kind of a typical, more human looking eyes than anything, but they're great for any kind of characters. So I generally pencil in one eye, and then sometimes it's hard to get them if you want them to be the same kind of shape and size. Sometimes it takes a couple times to kind of pencil them in until you're pleased. If I'm having a problem getting them to be the same size, I will hold my pencil up lengthwise to one and kind of mark on the pencil with my finger how long it is, and then make a little mark on the other side on the paper to kind of show. So you could pull out a ruler if it really bothered you and you wanted them exactly the same size and measure and mark. But I'm more loose, and I figure, doesn't have to be perfect as long as they're appealing to your eye. That's all I care about. So, and on mouths, most people's mouths have two kind of triangle shapes on the top that meet in the middle. You can make them more pronounced or not, depending on the expression, and really sometimes it's fun to play around and draw, quite a few different shapes and decide what seems to suit that figure. I'll give them a couple different mouths, or you can always draw mouths on another piece of paper and hold it over and see what you really like. Then we have the little section below your nose that is often a shadow, and I know there's a technical medical term for it that I don't remember, but I often give little triangles or make little shapes there just because they're interesting, not really, not any kind of definite realism, they're just kind of fun. And this character, for some reason, had very, well, in the photo I had, because of the lighting, he seemed to have darker sections around his eyes, and particularly that one eye. So as I was drawing, it just seemed like a good idea to give him kind of two round sections above and below his eye to accentuate and give him kind of stripes around that eye. I don't know if anybody, I do know someone who actually has a tattoo around their eye, but most people normally don't have circles that are intentional circles around their eyes, but there's just something appealing to me, so I drew in some circles, and that's what's great about this. You can do whatever you choose and give whatever you like. It's your picture, and whatever appeals to you. If you don't want, you want them to have very plain eyes, they can have very plain eyes. And not all my characters get ears. Sometimes they do, or sometimes they don't. In the photo I'm working from, the gentleman is wearing a hat and has earrings, and his earrings really appeal to me. I just thought they were pretty, and I liked the style, so I thought give him ears and earrings, because that's kind of how I work, is if things seem appealing to me, I put them in. So you can edit. You may pick a picture and decide to do it because the person has, a certain kind of nose you like, or smiles a certain way, or has, a certain color eyes. It's really up to you. That's the great thing about art. You're not trying to draw the picture per se, you're just using it as an inspiration, to a jumping off point. So you can pull out what you like about it. And here I started drawing a hairline for him, and then kind of decided to do a hat instead. So you'll see in a little bit where I will erase. I think this is a good example of, even I've been doing this for quite a long time, and I still will, mid-drawing, look back or step back and kind of go, I don't know, and erase something and fix it or change it, or, there is no right or wrong. It's all up to you and what looks good. And you can see that I will draw multiple lines. I like that messy kind of sketchy look, so I will just leave, draw multiple lines and leave them, or smudges. Most of my work has kind of a, mixed, I like a lot of patterns and messy things and a lot to look at. So I'm not real, not a real stickler on you have to do anything a certain way. It's all up to you. But if you like messy lines and you see something and you decide not to erase it and leave it there, leave it there. If it appeals to you, do it. And now I'm just penciling in some rough hair. In the photo, the gentleman has kind of layered, chunky hair, so I just decided to give a little hair sticking out of the bottom of the hat. And I'm giving him an Adam's apple, which I do that to a lot of my characters, whether they be male or female, because sometimes you'll have shadows on your neck. And most of my characters are not really defined of what gender they are. I'd rather have the viewer kind of decide. So, you can give them an Adam's apple or not, or give them some shadowing on the neck. That's all a personal preference. And when you usually do portraitures of people or portraits, there is, some basic rules about, standard things that shadowing and light and dark and features and, faces all have, kind of the same rules. There's, usually 3 main sections on a face and where things place, Well, in my work, there's no really hard and fast rules to anything. It's really just about placing stuff where you like it, or it's a lot like you drew when you were a kid. If you wanted to give somebody 3 eyes, you'd give them 3 eyes and move on. You wouldn't question why. So in your character, you do whatever, you want to do. It's your vision and what appeals to you. And oftentimes, the more you just play, the more fun happens. And sorry about that. I had to edit out a section because my head got in the way of the camera. I didn't realize I had leaned really far forward and was then blocking. And now I'm doing what I generally do towards the end of a drawing of the face, is adding any kind of I like to put tattoos and piercings on my characters. That's a personal preference. A lot of it comes from, there are certain facial piercings I would like to have, but I don't, so I paint them a lot because it's fun and there's no commitment, and and it's kind of a conversation starter. People see them and, usually ask questions, and so it's kind of a fun way to get people talking about art if you have different fun things. So towards the end, I generally give, kind of look at it and decide if they need some sort of tattoos on their face, or I like to do piercings below the bottom lip or up above the bottom or top lip, excuse me. And sometimes you'll see in a lot of my, if you've seen some of my other work, you'll see that a lot of people have what's called a septum piercing, which is a nose piercing that looks like kind of like a cow ring in their nose, or eyebrow rings, or but it's personal preference, and sometimes it's fun just to put random circles on faces that, they don't have to be tattoos or anything. They could be the person has makeup on, or they have skin with different colored sections, or, spots in different areas. And as far as clothing goes, what I drew in is nothing like what the character was wearing, but it's, then again, another thing, it's really up to you how in detail you want to go into what kind of clothing. But I generally start out for the clothing with giving them shoulders and then proceed from there and decide, and you may not even want them to have clothing, and then you can just, give them either leave it as a portrait with no shoulders, or feel free to give them shoulders and leave them shirtless and just paint skin tone. It's really up to you. And sometimes it's fun to just leave that space free, and then you can add other things, to cover up that area if you'd like organic shapes or flowers or stars. Or now I'm giving him some stars on his face because I tend to put stars in a lot of my work. And I'm fixing up the earrings, kind of adding in earrings and cleaning them up a bit. And I'm just drawing with a regular old cheap number 2 pencil, so you don't need anything fancy.